This is the last hurrah of the US dollar. Is there a better way to bring manufacturing back? And should we even want to? I believe all things move towards eliminating friction, and manufacturing is full of friction. Capital, labor, energy. So it's strange to reintroduce friction into a digital economy that's eliminated most of it. You have to have a good reason. It kind of reminds me of crypto. I never thought crypto would replace the dollar or currency in general, and it hasn't, because it's more complicated. It introduces extra steps. It was less convenient than credit cards. It offered less protections. It had no customer service. Only these theoretical benefits. Oh, you're free of government intervention, which you're never really free of. So if you're going to reintroduce friction, the benefits better be spectacular. Reshoring manufacturing may well be that type of opportunity. But more important than anything, this is America's last chance to turn its phony, paper-based fortune into a real one. Same way China has been buying up natural resources, farmland right here in the US, buying influence all over Africa with its Belt and Road Initiative. Our window to do the same is closing quickly. Taking advantage of this moment is like diffusing a bomb, and Trump is juggling sticks of dynamite. I would do everything within our power to prep our economy before touching tariffs. So what's my plan? First and foremost, you stop the bleed, which means letting the 2017 tax cuts expire, stop introducing new tax cuts unless they generate more revenue, which these cuts aren't, and do the same thing with cost cutting. Doge is a good notion. I don't know about the execution, but cutting every bit of fat is important. They need to pull every unspent penny from those pandemic stimulus programs. First, we need a laser focus on China. We need to start sourcing from everywhere but China. We need to leverage other countries' expertise to get up and running quickly, to build their factories here. Just like we have with the CHIPS Act, using Taiwanese manufacturers, and we need to accelerate that. But back out all the corruption and social agenda that crippled the CHIPS Act. This is also Japan's and South Korea's last chance to take advantage of the distrust of China and start building electronics here. Next, we need two types of partnerships. The first is sourcing partnerships. We do that through something like TPP, which for some dumb reason got blown up, but it was a very good idea under Obama. Every low-end good that we get from China, we could just as easily get from Vietnam, Thailand, or Malaysia. The second type of partnership we need is with large consumer markets. In 2016, I wrote about replacing the UN with a version of NATO that's built as a trade organization instead of just a defense alliance. If countries fulfill certain conditions, they get more and more benefits from this alliance. It's not that different from the Mar-a-Lago Accords, but it came first. What's better about it is it has positive, transparent incentives instead of clandestine, dirty tricks like we've been doing through the CIA, USAID, and IMF. Once you have these alliances lined up, that's when you enter negotiations with China, because you're dealing from strength. We need to get them to let our companies compete there, lower tariffs, stop dumping their products, stop using unfair subsidies, and stop stealing our IP, just to start off with. In negotiating with China, we are criminally underutilizing our secret weapon, brands. From NBA to Nike to iPhones, what we manufacture in spades is Kate Spades. We manufacture demand. America mastered the art of perceived value at scale. We tied corporations to people's identity, self-worth, and desirability. That's a feat rarely accomplished throughout history that we do habitually, and others can't. For example, Apple is the world's most valuable brand at $1.3 trillion. Dozens of American and European brands are in the 50 to 500 billion range. Only 2 Chinese companies made the top 100. And I have to read them off a piece of paper to pronounce them. One is Shein, valued at 24 billion, and Nongfu Spring, valued at 22 billion. Those are hardly high-end and definitely don't roll off the tongue. Have you been to Amazon lately? The junk littering that website looks like a Scrabble board after a hurricane. This is China's default setting. All of this garbage is the byproduct of interregional competition within China. They are in a race to the bottom, commodity hell, if not for brands propping them up. What American brands do for China is the same thing Spotify did for the music industry. Each individual song earns virtually nothing. But in aggregate, Spotify single-handedly restored all of the margin to the entire industry. And the same thing is done by American brands to China. A perfect example is Foxconn. Its margins are in the low single digits. Apple's margins are in the 40% range. But manufacturing for Apple is responsible for 60% of its revenue and most of its profit. Our leverage is not going to last forever. China is investing heavily in innovation and consumer brands. It still hasn't birthed a Louis Vuitton or a romantic dim sum restaurant, but the gap is narrowing. Chinese consumers are going to make up 35 to 40% of all luxury purchases by 2030. They're going to have a big say in what gets bought and what doesn't. The value of brands like Li Ning have gone up 66% in a single year because of patriotism as a reaction to trade wars. It's the same reason Apple has sunk to third place among Chinese consumers. For now, brands give the West a huge negotiating advantage, but that advantage is on borrowed time. We're also going to need tons of private investment from pharma and tech and auto firms to build all this infrastructure. Get them committed ASAP. And then we're going to need workforce development, but I'm not talking just skills. We're going to need to put Lizzo or a Kardashian on the assembly line to make it cool to manufacture. Psychologically, I don't think Americans are ready to work in the physical world, but the physical world has much more longevity. AI is waiting in the wings to take over all kinds of jobs. Anything that's done on a computer now, chances are you're not going to need 80 to 90% of the people doing it. The good news is we'll see entirely new industries and professions flourish. It's hard to say exactly what those are going to be, but that's always been the case throughout history. Where we can focus is on minimizing disruptions to people's lives in that transition, giving them a stake in that future, an equity stake. I'll get into what that means in a future episode. It also means R&D investment. That's something the government is actually good at. Look up this episode where I broke it down. The internet, stealth fighters, even hypersonics came from that, even though we don't have them and China does. They picked up our research. And we can partner with private industry to commercialize it and give Americans a piece of that upside. If you enjoyed this, share it with others, follow me on every platform, and subscribe to the Trendaddy newsletter. Lots more great stuff coming soon.